The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time to rumble once more, but this time it's not a double header on Thursday night. Instead, it's just a focus on the Formula 4 machine as we kick off 2022 Season 3 of the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series here live on RaceSpotTV. Hello everyone and welcome along as we get the show underway at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by the one, the only Lorenzo Bonder. Lorenzo, a new season means new beginnings for the drivers up and down through the field, but it starts here at a high-speed thriller that we have seen in the past here live on RaceSpotTV can be oh so treacherous.
Yeah, I love Canadian Tire Motorsport. Basically, one of my favorite tracks to drive, not just in sports car, but also F3 as we see the calendar. Very well distributed for this F3 series, Arjuna, and I can't wait as we move forward with this first round with these new F3 cars that I do want to talk about later on with new additions. Yeah,
it's an interesting little switch around in the drivers that we're going to see, of course, coming off what was an interesting run in the championship. Michael Coffray grabbing top honors. We'll start here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Of course, Hockenheim up next, but after that, it's going to be full focus on the newest addition to iRacing's calendar, Circuit Jerez. Then over to Magny-Cours. It's going to be an interesting one. We saw last season just how difficult it could be across at the PRL. Then Brands Hatch, but marks the halfway mark. Hungaroring, tight, twisty, and difficult to pass leads us to the Donington Park Racing Circuit at the start of the month of May and the run to the championship. Imola, Motegi, and Rodskogen to sum it all up. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be tight. Rolling our way out onto track for qualifying, of course, and an open qualifying session means that using the draft to your advantage is going to be important. Before we get to that, though, it's time to thank those that make all of this possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. From the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit muradness.com. Ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator. Lorenzo, as I mentioned, qualifying here is going to be all about making the most of the draft, and maybe it isn't a surprise to see 4 drivers split by 0.09 of a second so far.
It's gonna be absurdly close, and you see pretty much everything. You know, trying to set yourself up all the way down to the back straight, and driving through that what would be the first sector where you go around the loop. It's gonna be quite tricky for you to be within the draft, but if you are like half a second 4/10 of a second. Of course, there was a little bit of a change within the draft of the cars within this new season to try to make them more realistically, not just on the open wheelers, but also on other GT or closed wheel cars as well. It's going to be quite interesting how this new aerodynamic drag effect will affect the cars around the Canadian track.
1:10.559, the current benchmark by Aussie Milwain in the 1:14. 66 for Justin Negrete, up to a sixth position, with the top 10 split by just under 4/10 of a second. It is all about the newcomers, and don't forget as well that we've got no Pro-Am split this time around, and for some of those that have made their way up from the Formula 4 series, therefore to this Formula 3 series, it's going to be interesting. Don't forget as well, if you do want to join what is a unbroadcasted Formula 4 series, you can head over to the Precision Racing League website to learn all about it. One driver, Lorenzo, that we know all about is Connor Harrington. He makes his PRL debut here in the Formula 3 series.
Yeah, Connor, you know, no slouch when it comes to open wheel cars, driving the Dallara IR18. Likes to drive some LMP2s from time to time, but he likes to also drive these F3 cars. I've seen him drive, I think, the IR04, maybe a few occasions, but I managed to get us some solid times right now up in the top 3, as now we're looking to just the guy above him, which is Max Chablis, going around the hairpin and trying to set himself the best way he can towards the back straight.
Now, Max ended up missing about half the races last season, but ended up finished 36th in the combined drivers' championship. Brett Thurman up to the top 20 positions as we get the cars funneling their way out onto track for the final 6 minutes. Remember, with open qualifying, you can finish the lap that you're on, and so that's going to be what we kind of track ourselves for. Stefan Larkamp, another one of the Lionheart Racing Series regulars in today's PRL action, up to 8th. Let's ride on board with Chablis for a lap here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Flying through turn number 1, you can hear flat to the floor, so committed. Be careful though, straddling the curb on the outside. Don't want to push the limits just that little bit too far. A little bit of a lift as he fly away over the crest of Clayton Corner 2A, proving to be a bit too much of a challenge for Max Chablis, who slides his way into the tire wall.
Yeah, a little bit unlucky for Chablis to, you know, just try to carry himself into turn number 2. But that's the trick around the turn number 2, you know, because you are going... Can we actually say that is a roller coaster of a section, because you're going up
sure,
and then down, then go up again, then down again. So it's it needs some proper wing settings for make the car as stable as possible. You want to try to throw yourself in as early as possible into what would be the apex, because if you go too late, the track kind of like will throw you to the outside, and it's hard for you to go back inside. You would have to lift the car, maybe brake into it, then you completely lose all the momentum into turn number 3 through 2 to 4. So
sorry to cut you off. One thing that I've just noticed, Aussie Milwain seems to be content in pit lane, so I don't think we're going to see him out on track just yet. He seems to be very, very happy with his qualifying performance so far. James Moller is up to 6th position. He's also done and dusted so far. Rather, rolling back out, seems to be trying to get some fresh tires onto his machine. Harrington, Carter Hutcherson, rather. They're running 3rd and 4th positions, with now half a tenth of a second splitting the top 4. And remember that it's all going to work like this in the race itself. We're this close in qualifying. We're going to be this close in the race. It's going to get intense. We've got pit stops to be expected as well. Open setups for the drivers to try and get the most out of what type of balance will they have been able to wrangle out of it. As Carter Hutchinson runs his way into pit lane. Let's ride with Harrington then for a lap here at this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park with the private label Team Hunt car. Down through Clayton's Corner, a little bit of a better ride this time by, and up towards Quebec. The first time you really stamp on the brakes and go down a couple of gears into 4th. Early on the power, trying to sweep the momentum all the way to the outside and then plunge down the hill into turn 4. Be careful of the landmine that does sometimes strike these machines, but then brake slightly up into Moss Corner, and then on the brakes once again into 5B, the second part of it, to roll yourself back onto the power, and in Harrington's case, get a healthy dose on the draft as he funnels his way onto the Mario Andretti straightaway somehow, because logic defies any sort of sense. We've gone through turn 6. We're coming up now to what is turn 7. But you tell me, have we really made any turns? Now we're into turn number 8. How brave is Harrington? Well, flat to the floor initially. Slight lift as he heads his way through the S's into turn 9. Down a couple of gears. A little bit of understeer as he works his way through White's corner. Got to be careful with the curb on the inside. Don't want to clip too much of that. Harrington got plenty of draft at the end, but does not find any improvement.
Yeah, but that was a very close lap to call. I thought actually he was going to make an improvement out of it for Connor. So looking very nice. And I saw a few clips of the curves around turn number 8 and 9. So which was really interesting to see how he approaches the lines, because especially through the sector number 2 and going to sector number 3, the final curves, you can take a few different approaches into it and basically be even on pace. But interesting lines from Connor as we look into Beth Thurman as he opens up his lap, and now we go into Nathan Medina as he's wrapping up his lap.
Big field to 34! Oh, Nathan Medina, sorry sir, but you're not allowed to park your car there. Heavy hit to the wall. And my days, they actually do not get much bigger than that, if we're being totally honest. Max Shabley backing out on this lap, trying to set himself up for what will be the next flying lap. Someone just pointed out commentator's curse already here today.
Nope, not commentator's curse. I truly believe. Nope, this is not on us.
There's no such thing as a commentator's curse, right?
No, no, not at all.
That's what some have told me. Don't know if I believe them.
No, I don't believe him at all. Like all the yellow flags that I usually call out on broadcast, the drivers do it. I don't do anything about it, even though I call them out.
Okay, so Shabley's going to get another run. Harrington's already set himself up for that next flyer. James Miller seems to be on a decent attempt as he's currently in 6th position, just under 2/10 off of Milwane's 114 with coming to 30 seconds left to go. Drivers will get to complete the lap that they're on, so Miller will get a second chance, but behind him not many more will. Miller finds no improvement. He's 0.005 of a second off of what was his previous best, and Moran went to 11th spot until Steven Ritters took that away from him. Moran down to 12th spot. Again though, 1 second splits the top 24.
That is absolutely insane. As we go into our final 10 seconds, those who are within the lap, I think, are able to complete it. I'm really looking for whenever we go green on this, because those that are in the mid-pack, like maybe top 20, around the top 20 is going to be interesting to see how they navigate through the first few corners.
Oh, and there's standing starts in this as well, aren't there? So it's going to be interesting. Harrington up to second. Now, just over 100th of a second splits the top 3, but Max Shabley has one more chance to respond. Puff of smoke. Nathan Medina has been joined by someone else, and Shabley won't improve. It's row 2 for the 14.
And the separation between top 3, like you said, 100, basically 0.1 of a second is insane, as we see Ritters about to wrap up his lap, going through the final corners. He fully aborts it. It's not going to be an improvement whatsoever for P11. I think there's a few more cars on track.
I think that's it. Carter Hutchinson is a little bit slow, so I think we're done and dusted for qualifying. 0.012 of a second split the top 3. You have to go back to 6th to find a car outside of 1/10 of pole position, and he's all the way back almost 2/10 off of Paul Lorenzo. What a way to get the season underway.
Yeah, that was a golden start for us to watch some good qualifying, open qualifying between every single one of them. And looking forward to the start of this new season. It's going to be an exciting one.
Still got about 25 seconds before things come to an end in qualifying and the drivers get themselves focused towards the lights and to get this race underway. Let's take a look at the weather conditions if you're curious how it's faring out here in this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park up in North America. Relatively cool day, all things considered, with fairly strong gusts of wind, but it's only going to get potentially cooler and darker from here as we race into the sunset at this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Qualifying comes to an end. It's Ozzy Milwane who sat in the pit lane for the last 10 minutes and waited to see if anyone could beat him. No one could. Let's see how they'll line up behind him though for what should be an exciting 36 laps or so of racing. 45 minutes going onto the board. Starting from pole, it's the Evolve Sim Sports 114, 110, 559. Good enough to get him in front of Connor Harrington and Max Shabley, but only by 0.012 of a second. Carter Hutchinson, then only a couple of hundredths of a second further back. Hilo Palacio and then James Miller through the top 6 cars, with Justin Negrete and Jake Potts lining up behind them. Stefan Larkamp and Raymond Doe share row 5 with Stephen Ritters and Andrew Moran behind them. Cody Grams and Nathan Medina 13th and 14th positions, with Kevin McPherson and Brett Thurman sharing row number 8. Michael Dowden has Brad Miller for company in the all-white machine, with Blake Ziti, Richard Swindells, Eric Dubé, Sully Saad, Takeshi Kita, Jake Vasconcelos all through the front 12 rows. Austin Harris, Lucas Hill, Gavin Ray, Indica Scarlett, and then James Carter and Evan Jones, the top 30. And we're scrambling because we're just waiting for a handful more cars to launch us into the race. Of Oliver Hartley, Barry Cochrane, Drew DeWeese, and then Neil Alexander. That's the field that get ready to do battle in round number 1 of the season. Lorenzo, it's a tricky old race here. How a driver's going to fare out on lap number 1.
It's going to be quite interesting because you have this up and down roller coaster into the first and second sectors. The car is going to be on cold tires, so it's going to be hard to navigate. But for those who are around P15, maybe all the way back into the back end of the grid, it's going to be tricky. Oh, good luck.
Here we go, a new season for the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series. Defending champion nowhere to be seen. At the front, Ozzy Milwane with a great launch. Max Shapley is going to be having to defend because he got bogged down very slightly. Connor Harrington with an even worse start. Sees himself squeezed out but not onto the grass. As in the case of Raymond Doe, they plunge down the hill for the very first time. Front 2 starting to break away. Jake Potts off and into the grass, and now somehow into the tire wall. Connor Harrington from 3rd position sees his PRL debut come to an end. Now Justin Negrete, Eric Dubé, plenty more coming to blows down into Moss Corner. So much chaos to start the race off.
Well, we kind of expected that of sorts to begin with, and it's going to be quite chaos at Moss Corner again.
More drama as they all now be able to cycle their way through, hopefully at the front. Look at this further back. Body parts everywhere, no yellow flags. It's what Milwane and Shapley would want to see.
Absolutely, and also we have to talk about this new damage model improvements. They made a little bit more of a softer body within the F3, so they have to be careful trying to make contact, because now one contact, well, we knew back in the day it was basically a race over if you had any sort of wheel-to-wheel contact. Now even body contact can be basically race over here, Arjuna.
It was all at the start as well where things, I think, went bad for Connor Harrington. We'll grab a look at some replays in a few moments' time, but at the end of lap number 1, Milwane, Shapley, Palacio, Miller, Hutcherson. That's your top 5 as they scramble their way around the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park already. 4 cars in pit lane. Sully Saw drove himself there, but Connor Harrington, Justin Negrete, and Eric Dubé all needed to get on the tow truck to be able to salvage something of their cars. Down the hill once more they go. Top 2 starting to stretch their legs behind, but the draft, albeit weaker, may still play a factor, Lorenzo. It's something that drivers across the board have been talking about and, in some cases, complaining about, as that's Raymond Doe that's gone off at Moss Corner this time by.
Yeah, we're going to lose another position also to Miller into P16, go Raymond Doe, but still within the draft. But that's the danger, yeah. It's not having the, what would say, the overpowered draft like you would used to have back in Season 1 and even seasons back. Now, 1.2 seconds was basically the average for you to catch on the draft and basically ride it with it. Now it has to be around a second or something like it to be into proper performance, as we see moves up and down the board throughout the entirety of the field.
Yeah, they're all cycling in this mid-pack. Even with this reduced draft, they've been able to kind of still trundle around with one another. Lap 2 in the books of what should be 36 based on the time, as that's Max Shapley with a huge issue. 3rd in qualifying, now out of the race.
And Mosport bites again, you know, and that's the trick about Mosport in a nutshell, right, Arjuna? Because you don't have a lot of tarmac for you to go into the opposite corner. As we're going to restart with a very, very bad start from Harrington into turn number 1. But that's the trick. If you catch the grass, it's basically race over unless you find a way to save that car.
So you could see behind, Raymond Doe went for a trip, able to somehow hang on to it. We'll check out first what happens to Connor Harrington, but you can see Jake Potts just drifted off to the right-hand side by himself now. Connor Harrington did get some contact from behind. And oh my days!
Oh my days!
Goodness gracious me!
And you know what's the worst thing is, Arjuna? Can you even blame Connor for coming back on the track because of the the kinetic movement that is up for the car until the barrier. So nothing that Connor can do over there.
Goodness gracious me. How do you even have a wreck that monumental? Aussie Milwane, now after all of that, Shabley, Harrington, the two challengers really in qualifying, gone. It's Milwane clear by 1.9 seconds at the front, down the hill. Palacio tries to challenge, of course, with Malaire, Hutchison, and now Ridder's making up the rest of the top 5. Have some separation to Andrew Moran behind.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be kind of like, for what it looks like, the first 3 laps kind of became the Canadian version of Squid Game, if you want to call it like that.
Hey, we're getting another season of Squid Game.
Yeah, let's go. Oh, Ray with a few troubles around the Moss corner. Just mind the rejoin. There you go.
Able to finally, just about, cycle his way back onto track. Gavin Ray in that number 3 machine now down to 22nd position as they run. Carnage in the opening couple of laps, but it's settled down since then. Max Shabley, if you're curious, has left the pit lane, but he's about to go a lap down because your race leader is bearing right on him. In fact, is already clear. That's Milwane in front of the Atomic Racing machine. I'm still trying to get through everything that we saw at the start of that race because my days was that chaotic.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle a little bit. We might actually have to go a full lap of calmness around this field to actually cycle through everything that happened within these first 3-4 laps of this race as they go through Moss Corner again.
I feel like we should track the sacrifice potentially here. As Connor Harrington, nowhere to go. Eric Dubé, also nowhere to go.
And a few other drivers just catching collateral right there, and nothing you could do, you know, just the kinetic movement you get around that car. I wonder how fast Connor actually hit the back of the car into the tire barrier. I would estimate about 180 kilometers just in the tire barrier, and then coming back on track as we see the issues around now Moss Corner.
Ooh, and so a couple of cars went up and into the air, and then there's more. There was more. I don't even know where all it happened. So Medina, McPherson, Miller, they were all mixed up. ZT as well at some point got involved in all of this shenanigans. So I'm going to be honest, I have no way of being able to pick all of these cars apart. But all I know is it goes on for days. So a couple of looks at all of that. Check back in with your live pictures. Milwane now 1.7 back from in front rather of Palacio. A gap for the lead, starting to slowly come down.
Yeah, what I'm looking for the most is we see more troubles for Moran, Andrew Moran just coming around Moss Corner, and that is a trick of Moss Corner. I think it is probably the worst spot around the track, maybe with turn number 4, maybe as Vasconcelos now also with issues, is finding that braking zone, and because you're going uphill, the car is going to be loose around the corner, maybe even lock and will throw you into the grass, and basically you can lose 1, 2, maybe 3, even 4 spots just because you missed a braking point or you overshot the braking point.
Yeah.
And kind of make it to the second half of the corner.
I think the other thing that sometimes you got to consider as well, right, is just that it's such a committed corner, and when you're behind other cars, you're just always struggling to try and judge. This is what happened then with Max Shabley, just a bit of a wiggle. Was he on the grass? That's my question, as he tried to get onto the brakes. Well, he was on the grass, trying to get onto the power, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think he try to get back into power, or try to, you know, set the car straight going into basically what would be turn number 4 going into Quebec, but unfortunately it just didn't work out for him. That's
Neil Alexander that went for his own little ride, but I tell you what, I know how slippery this grass is. Great car control to hold on to it. Gavin Ray, Moss Corner. He does a Tony Hawk on the actual curb itself, and then actually slides back out onto track, and that was the rejoin that we saw earlier.
Yeah, clean rejoin. A little bit of move. I thought there was not going to be any move on the outside as we looking through another angle.
That was Andrew Moran's little issue
that was
as well.
Moran.
Yeah, so we're just one by one picking up what's happened to a handful of these drivers.
Yeah, and we also saw Vasconcelos also having a mistake just right after that, and I just saw up and down the board, Richardson Dow's losing the top 10 spot to Thurman. Yeah,
that was the number 69 machine that had fought his way up in. I see one of the SRT Esports drivers up in the chat, checking in for today. Does feel a little different just having the one PRL event, as poor Brett Thurman almost flies his way off into the grass. I don't know how risky you really want to push it, but that's certainly one of the approaches. Max Shabley has had another issue and has had another trip back to pit lane, this time on the back of the tow truck. That's going to be the end of this first race of the season for him. Again, 34 started. Lorenzo, we are down to 23 left running on the lead lap. In fact, that's probably going to be 22 in a couple of moments' time. James Carter is also on pit lane.
Oh, no. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, as a certain Peter Mackay would say. Yeah, it's quite complicated, but then again, this is one of these tracks that it's kind of like Zandvoort, if I want to say. Like, you love it or hate it, because the tiniest mistake is going to be a race-ending mistake, like I said.
So is what you're saying, you either like it or you're bad at it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the same thing about Circuit of the Americas, I maintain.
Yeah, 100%.
You either like it or you're not good at it.
Yeah, for example, I'm not good at it, therefore I hate it.
There are obviously exceptions to these rules, just to be clear, but, you know.
No, yeah. It's kind of like, ironically, my first ever win in iRacing, like an iRacing League event, was actually at Coda. So it's like, yeah, so it's kind of like, it's the race I've trained the least, and all these things, as we see, still seeing the gap go down. I trained the least amount of time for the race. Was a former Renault race. I just won because I started first place in a reverse grid. Everybody behind me decided to die on the first corner.
Well, Evolve Sim Sport, our defending team champions, run at the front, with James Miller, Emilio Palacio behind, as Cody Grams gets in front of Stephen Ritters. This was before the Estes section. Just see how much they pirouette as well through the corners, how much load they have. It's always interesting that potentially the best racing ever at this venue, as Neil Alexander lights up the tires, the best racing at this venue isn't necessarily always the faster cars, even though IMSA, for example, has come here and had some great racing, Lorenzo. Usually it's when the NASCAR Truck Series comes here, just because you know you're guaranteed a fight.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was trying to remember which NASCAR. I don't know if it was Xfinity or the trucks that came around over here, and they are close to one another, and it meant some good road pedigree for you to go around this track, because you're basically carrying boats around this track. So it's good to see. It's good to see the trucks around here and catch some good old action on the track. It's been quite a while I haven't seen a truck race.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. In fact, I guess COVID interrupted a lot of that in terms of you needed to be vaccinated to cross the border. Major sticking point, not just for NASCAR, I guess, but even for IMSA. I remember reading a lot of teams that didn't necessarily want that. Whatever your opinions on that are, be that as that may, but it was the case. 1.9 at the front of the field. Milwain and Moller just go back and forth in terms of the lap times. Draft is just about there. Moller's not really getting much of it, but enough that maybe it's propelling him along. Last time by Milwain was 3 full tenths faster, in fact, than Moller, although Moller has a faster actual race lap so far.
And one of the things I think we haven't seen, as we see Moller with the fastest lap, you just put it up, is how they're actually going to manage the fuel, because I think you can actually save a full lap of fuel, and we're not seeing too much any clutching from these cars. You can actually do some clutching coasting around these cars, and we're seeing
I thought iRacing fixed that.
I think they fixed it for the GT cars. I don't know if they actually applied that for the.
Interesting. Okay.
I know they did for the LMP2s. I think they did for some of the GTs, but I don't know if they actually done that for the open wheels like the F3s.
Gotcha. Well, let's take a look at Blake CT, who ran himself off the road, unfortunately, and then I think James Carter had to take avoiding action. Let's ride with his perspective, and yep, trying to find a way through, and in fact, contact as well. Not much he could do.
Yeah. Catching basically the arm the right arm, the right front arm of his car, and causing some damage as we look into another one.
Oh.
Missing turn number 2,
You-
the 333 of Scarlet.
Yeah, you can really just tell how committed that turn 2 section is, because you don't lift through turn 1, it's a brief blip through 2, and then Jake Vasconcelos up into Moss corner. He had an issue of his own. What happened here? Fine through the first part. Oh, and it's again that curb on the outside.
Fighting every single one of them, because what happens is you, for what I gather is
Ooh.
my experience. Oh,
Cody Graham's change of underwear requested.
that is a nice save.
I'm a little bit speechless. Hutcherson up in front of Palacio, by the way. He's done a great job of finding his way forward there, but my days, what a save.
What a save. I think that's the save of the race easily. Of course, if kept that on the tarmac, probably contender for save of the season, and Don Anthony, by the way. As we see now to Kishikita moving up 1 spot as Raymond Du falls back 1 more spot, and Connor Hutcherson now with the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race, that's exactly what he'd want to see. Front of the field, 1.6 seconds the margin. I heard tire squeals, and it's the atomic racing car of Steven Ritters that's now trying to loop himself around. Got to be careful with the rejoin, but able to scamper back out onto track, albeit now down in 11th position.
And another victim of turn number 2.
Was it turn? It was turn 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, another victim.
A car bottomed out there, I'm pretty sure. We'll have to go back in time a little bit more, but I think we heard it.
Yeah, seemed like it.
Hutcherson, by the way, in the live pictures, now getting past Malaire potentially as they fight side by side up in towards the S's. There was, I think, a little bit of grounding there, and Hutcherson slides his way forward. Really nicely executed there around the outside initially, and now Milwain has a new target fighting behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. But from looking as well from the incident, I think there was a little bit of overcommitting into the turn number 1. You can even see the car getting a little bit loose into the entry, and then maybe the car was already getting loose, and then bottoming out was just basically the icing on the cake to have that issue.
2.2 now. With all that fighting, it does open it up slightly. Let's see if we can grab a word with Connor Harrington, who is now going to be standing by with Lorenzo Bonder.
Yes, we now, Connor, do you have a read on us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Yeah, what's up, man? So tell us about this start of the race and this transitioning to the F3s. How's it been? How's natural is it for you? We know that you like to do these cars, but talk about us the start of the race, because you had a very promising start, but a little bit of a fumble, and then right after that, just chaos.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. We went to go drop the second clutch, and it's just like it's like I only had 1 clutch paddle going, so I just dropped the clutch immediately and did a nice burnout, which is really good in these cars. So we were just caught in the mess, and racing for 4th and 5th, and we finally managed to spot in the line there, and then we just got ran over in turn 3. So I don't know. I mean, I think our race pace would have been okay. I had no idea what I was going to do with fuel and tires, and it was a big question mark. So I've never ran a race that's scheduled this distance, to have a pit stop. So I think it would have been interesting. If we had survived the first lap, and see if we could have fought our way back up there to the front.
Right on. And Connor, I know it's been a very tough race. We're gonna let you go, have some rest, and we'll see you next time, man.
Yep. See you guys.
Always good to talk to the drivers, as I unmute myself so Lorenzo Bonder can also hear me now, because that's always appreciated when the commentators can hear each other. You could hear the disappointment. It's an interesting format, like he mentioned as well. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. 40-minute races with pit stops in these cars. Slightly unique, but it's what makes it an interesting series. You can see we're dealing with some lap traffic as well. Clutch starts as something, Lorenzo, that especially in sim racing, over the years we've become so much more sophisticated on the things and the tools that we have at our disposal. Now in the top level, for example, we have the dual clutches where a lot of drivers just have to dump one and then slowly release the other when it's at the right time.
Yeah, I still use the good old clutch pedal from my G29 over here. Even on the Fan Attack, I also didn't have a dual clutch, but I know a lot of the drivers who used it. I know past 99.9% of the drivers use it, so it's quite interesting. I know even some, ironically, this is kind of funny. Do you know some other drivers to make up for the lack of a second clutch, they actually use controllers for it?
Controllers?
Yeah.
That's a new one to me, that's for sure. Ritters has also now had another issue, so let's have another cycle through RaceSpotTV's replay bingo. Who wins first? Larkamp, turn 2. Deja vu. Of deja vu. Of deja vu. It's been a lot of turn 2 issues, if we're being fair. Cochran has turn 5 issue, but this time on power down, proving that you do have to be very tentative, even in these lower powered Formula 3 machines. This was Steven Ritters, who didn't just have a drift through the wall, he slammed his left side into it.
Wondering if he got tire or suspension damage, because a hit like that can basically break the suspension, as we see more issues.
Oh!
Oh my god.
Brett Thurman is no longer with us here at Mosport. He has disappeared into another dimension, courtesy of the grass and the tires.
If you're gonna send your car into the tire barrier, you gotta send it with style. At least he did that.
I guess that's true. Front of the field, by the way. Hutcherson, 1.7 back, bringing Moller with him. They've dropped Palacio behind.
And I was going to say, Moller was while battling for position with Hutcherson, or trying to follow him into turn number 2, had a giga save. Like, you can see the car getting twitchy between the transition from the entry of the corner into the bottom end of the turn number 2. The car looked so nervous on the transition that he had to counter steer a little bit and keep that on track. So they're working, man. You got to appreciate that.
They are hustling at this track, that is for sure. Hustling more than they would be at the Hockenheim ring, that's for sure, which is up next. Not a fan of the Hockenheim ring, in my opinion. Mosport's great.
Same. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Old Hockenheim was not bad, I'll give it that.
It's kind of like the new Hockenheim, maybe for these cars, it's okay. Because you can fight all the way from the backstretch and also into the arena as well, so you can kind of stay side by side. They are racing around the F3s. If we're talking about 10 tops, then maybe it's a complete different discussion.
True. I don't know.
But yeah, if I have to say in general, I'm not a big fan of new Hockenheim, but I agree 100%. Old Hockenheim, GOAT. New Hockenheim, eh.
Closing at the front. 1.4 this time by. Going to be a couple of tenths chopped off. Hutcherson slowly but surely eking into the advantage. We officially have reached the halfway mark of the season opener as well. 18 laps in the books. 36 on the docket for this opening round, and now 1.2. Hutcherson continues to latch himself on closer and closer. Attrition playing a big part here today. 34 started, 18 left on the leading lap, with about a 22 still out there and running and trying to salvage some sort of result from the start, because remember, you can drop one round of the championship. You don't want it to be round number 1.
Especially a crucial round where we're seeing a lot of the guys drop basically within the first half of this race, which is insane to think about. We just reached half distance of this race, and we're still yet to see pit stops happen around this track. And in the gap, like we saw, and one of the things we have mentioned time and time again, the gap between Milway, Hutcherson, and Moller plummeted, and it's kind of awkward to see plummet this hard and Moller to keep up so close to Hutcherson as we go lap by lap.
Whoa, was that a slide for Hutcherson, or was that just the car really on the limit? I tell you what, he's hustling. Moller's having to push to keep up with him as well. Milwayne's continuing to just run his tempo, not pushing the issue too much. You want to know how much they are just running the tempo at the front? Let's check in with our RaceSpotTV lap chart. Milwayne basically in the 111, under the 111.5s in the early stint. And now with a mistake, Milwayne off the track. Your race leader felt the pressure. Hutcherson takes the point.
Oh my goodness, what is happening here, Gina? What is happening? I'm not understanding what is going on.
That was Brett Thurman's issue again, apologies. Went to the wrong replay there. Ozzy Milwane with the mistake. And I tell you what, that's not it either, I tell you. We're having some fun with so much drama behind the scenes. James Miller now pushes to try and grab the point.
But if you're Muller right now, do you battle right now prior to the pit stop as we now look now into Milwane's issue?
So he had a bit of understeer on exit, but was he tight initially on entry anyway?
He was. The car kind of like left the apex, was kind of clean into it, but I think just went too early on the power, in my opinion.
Interesting. Well, Milway now has to fight his way back, and from about 1.8 back from Muller. So plenty to play for. Still 18 minutes or so to go in this race based on the lap time so far. It'll be 15 to go at the line next time by. Don't forget Friday and Saturday are PRL off days, but back again here live on RaceSpotTV on Sunday to renew our weekly subscription to the PRL action, starting of course first with your NASCAR Cup Series, and then it all starts on the weekdays with some of the road racing once again. What's happened to Austin Harris? Well, we'll find out here as he grabs a bit of the curb on the inside, and that's what pushes him out wide. May that have been the same thing for Ozzy Milwane?
Yeah, but I think clipping the curb on the entry kind of did him, because it was a little bit of an issue as we see Muller and Milwane into the pit box. Palacio as well pulls through.
Yeah, so interesting call. Hutcherson save fuel initially maybe, and maybe save the tires to really let it rip, and now they trundle down pit lane for the first time today. Grams extends one lap longer as well. Milwane with the best stop of them all, or stall of them all rather. What can he do? Muller with a 5-second stop. 5.1 for Milwane, 5.6 for Palacio, and 7.6 for Andrew Moran.
I'm wondering if I think there was a little bit of overfuel for Moran in my honest opinion, but anyway, more guys coming into pit lane as I see Lucas Hill into the pit lane, Oliver Hartley into the pit lane as well, Arjuna. Wondering if Hutcherson comes into this lap, and if the...
Surely.
Yeah, absolutely has to be, but I think does the... Not blink down on the top of my head if going over the fuel actually gonna work for him.
Remember, this is gonna be a distance-based race, so drivers, unlike in some of the other series, aren't so concerned with whether we're going extra laps or not, depending on how much time has been run. Back straight for Muller, pit lane for Hutcherson. Grams, will he follow? Is this the magic number? Can you go no longer than lap 21 or so? It seems to be the case. Hutcherson will find his mark, and after really blitzing the field in the second half of that opening stint, Muller clears all of that traffic into the final corner, and Hutcherson rolls after stationary for 5.1 seconds. He'll have the lead, but with a head of steam comes Muller, and now looking to try and close.
That was a really good pit stop from Hutcherson. I think he opened up, I was estimating about a 1.5 second gap. What a job from the number 71. And what a job also from the 114, because I was looking prior to the pit stop, Palacio was at 0.9 seconds from Milwane. So the race from Milwane could have gone from bad to worse in just a few laps, but apparently the situation has gone to normal.
Milwane back in contention for the lead potentially as well. See how he's able to fight his way back into contention at the front. Pit stop cycle complete, albeit for Evan Jones and Neil Alexander, who I suspect will likely be in the next handful of minutes anyway. So 3 cars still within striking distance at the front. Does not mean there are, of course, not battles through the field, and we're sure to check in with them, but stall gets laid out for the rest of the season here at round number 1. Who gets the most momentum? The one that wins. Behind those that will hope to try and grab victories later on. It's been a competitive Formula 3 series over the course of the previous couple of years, Lorenzo. It's looking like it'll be just as competitive for the next 10 weeks.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that you don't have guys like, for example, Conor Wagner, not dismissing them, that and the boys that work from Delta Sport that kind of dominated the scene a few seasons back. Now you basically have some really good guys in the grid that kind of go toe-to-toe and maybe not have an over-dominance in this field, but it's going to be quite interesting how the other 11 weeks of the season 10 weeks of the season kind of shape up.
So down the back straightaway run, the trio at the front with Milwain struggling to hold on to Muller, at least on this lap. Hutchison was quick again, and remember that they've done more than half the race. They've realistically done almost 2/3 the race, and in fact it will be 2/3 race distance complete this time by. Hutchison's going to know that if he saved the tires a little bit at the start of the race rather, Lorenzo, he doesn't have to do it this time around.
No, absolutely. He can basically push this car out. The only thing he might have to maybe look is the tire temperature, you know, not try to overdrive the car and heat up the core of the tire, which is going to make the grip less likely for him, and it's going to be hard for him to cool down the tire itself. And mistakes from Muller.
Muller throws it off the road, and Palacio jinks his way on clear, and now, unfortunately, Cody Grams runs himself into Muller, sees part, fortunately for Andrew Moran, but more drama at the front, and it means that Hutchison now leads by 3.5+ seconds from Ozzy Milwain.
Oh my God, I'm in
shock
shock right now. I'm in shock. Was that even a friendly fire, by the way? Because I think Grams and Muller are teammates.
They potentially are. I'll be honest. I'm still just trying to figure out exactly all that's gone on over the course of this race. I think it was, again, just pushing out too wide, a little bit overcommitted and off and into the grass. Let's check out our RaceSpotTV replay here. Yeah, just, again, understeer wide. Unfortunately, unlike Ozzy Milwain, it was caught in such a way that it spun the car around and then stationary trying to get it. Don't think they're teammates. Oh, they are teammates. I think you're right. Not sure, but poor Cody Grams. Nothing he could really do.
Yeah, and Muller, you know, just in a really bad situation. Kind of like, where do you go from there? Because you don't see there's probably potential ways for you to get the car back out on track, and boom.
I think Cody Grams was caught half-footed, not sure if James Muller was going to slide backwards or reverse rather on the track or not, and so some indecision there unfortunately ends poorly for the both of them. Three-way fight still rages for 8th position with Larkamp in front of Ridders and Miller as they work their way into the middle sector.
And I want to say, I think you cover more Larkamp than I do, because you've been covering Lionheart more than I have been. I've been impressed with Larkamp's performance in the NHR Alcantech from season to season to season. He's been improving, getting more confidence around the road tracks, you know. So good to see him in an F3 car, getting confidence, and see him in an F3s before, but not getting solid top 10 results. But now really happy for the number 62 to be fighting for positions, even though he's defending right now from Steven Ridders.
Not having to defend too hard, fortunately, at least through the first part of the S's, but as they sweep their way back in with 10 laps left to go this time by for these drivers. Time starts to wind itself down. Don't forget to stick around for post-race coverage as we hopefully talk to the front three. Talk to Hutchison about the rapid pace that he's shown, 4.3 clear at the front. Milwain about the speed in qualifying, and then Palacio about ducking and diving through all the drama. Plenty to figure ourselves all through, and then we'll look forward to round 2 at Hockenheim, and then round 3, Lorenzo, at Jerez, a track that none of these drivers will have too much experience at.
Yeah, but for me, Jerez is such an amazing track for F3s. I know the Spanish F3 does some races in there. I know Spanish F4 as well. So basically, the entry level of Spain racing goes in there, and it's such a good track. It's famous, of course, for the Villeneuve Schumacher incidents, for MotoGP, but with these cars, they can race side by side, catch draft, and go for it. So looking forward to see what that new track will bring for all these drivers, which provide a new challenge.
I think it suits this car as well. That's a good thing.
Yeah, 100%.
See how the racing goes. We'll see what the setups look like as well, and hopefully it's a little less spillagey next time out. Spillage isn't even necessarily a word, is it?
I was gonna say that.
No, we make up words here all the time on RaceSpotTV. It happens. Ritter's really closing on the Alcantech NHR Esports machine, and now feints to the inside, up the hill, in towards turn number 2. First braking zone of the lap. And nicely executed. Ritter's up to 8th. Larkamp doesn't really try and fight that one back, and they've dropped Miller, who's 2.5 back. Were you talking without your microphone unmuted?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. I committed a sin.
Yeah, don't worry. We've all done it, including the 2-time Simi Award winner, Lewis McLeod.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as he won't want me to bring that up.
No, and he's proud enough doing that, even though he kind of hates it for us bringing that up.
I know. We just got to make sure, equal opportunity offenders, you know?
No, absolutely, and we got to call them out whenever they commit crimes.
Especially when they're like Lewis. Sorry.
Oh, 100. Yeah, 100. Even though love you, Lewis, but we have to call you out. I was going to say, from what it looks like, Ritters actually took advantage from Larkamp going into the exit of turn number 2 because Larkamp's car got loose on the exit from what it looks like. Got twitchy, and I think lost momentum because of that, and allowed Ritters to go on the inside of Quebec corner and make the overtake.
This is one of those tracks which I think is so unique in that it's bumpy, it's committed. It's unlike many modern racetracks, Lorenzo. It's retained a lot of the charm from back in the day.
Yeah, 100%. And I like to say this is a driver's track than what would you have your Hilcodromes and things like that from what you see nowadays. That it requires finesse. It requires 100% finesse around the corners, and was actually, well, it wasn't a former Grand Prix, F1 Grand Prix venue for nothing, right? Even though that actually changed from Mosport into Montreal right after, but still, it's one of the premier tracks, I would say, in North America that demands class from the drivers, and I love driving Mosport, even though I might suck at it from time to time.
It's changed a little bit in the real world in that it now is, I think it's a little bit more similar to, it's got more runoff, that's what I was trying to say, in that it's become more boring. Yeah. I tried to phrase that the right way, but I've realized that there was no good way to phrase it. It is more boring now. That is the be-all and the end-all of it at the ultimate end of the day. It does not mean you can still not have monumental shunts here, so just keep that one in mind. Ritters still closing in front, Swindells and Medina, after Medina has had an issue on this lap. He's not been dropped into the clutches of these drivers just yet, but he's going to have to watch out because Ritters and Larkamp fighting their way still through traffic. Meanwhile, at the front, as we have 6 laps to go, Hutcherson has built the advantage up to 4.4.
Hey, it improves that you don't have to be first, the first place into qualifying to kind of win this game, and basically just be consistent around the track, keeping the car around it, and just being calm. Find your spots, and whenever you feel comfortable pushing around the car, whenever the tire build up and you got that grip working for you, you can be fast and consistent about it, and you can see basically taking advantage from the other drivers' mistakes, being fast about it, have the fastest lap of the race, so everything going perfect for the number 71 driver.
So, sun continues to set, race continues to dwindle down. Battle's not completely done and dusted. Medina's going to have to recover, of course, after his little moment means now that he's behind Richard Swindells. I tell you what, let's go ahead and pick up what that mistake was. It was up at turn 5, too much speed on entry. That does a good job to lock it on down.
Yes. Luckily for him, he still manages to not lose a lot of time on the track. Medina, of course, thrown out of the top 6. Swindells taking advantage of the mistake. And if you're Swindells, you're not going to care about it. You're going to make the overtake. It's a freebie.
Freebies, yeah, no, that's what they say in Twitch chat as soon as something happens, you know?
Yeah. And you got to be loud. You just don't say freebie. It has to be freebies.
Neil Alexander's had a rough day. He's 15th position, 1 lap down, but I tell you what, 15th spot, given that so many strong drivers have had major issues, may not be the worst thing in the world.
I don't think they will mind. as long as you're racing, that's pretty much okay, given the fact that we saw, what, 1/3 or nearly half the grid off because of incidents.
I mean, 34 started, 13 left on the lead lap. I mean, attrition has definitely taken its toll. And again, old school track again. I'm not saying anything else other than it's just a brutal, brutal track that has, especially with the bumps, some of these compressions, landmines that I mentioned earlier as well. It's one that you just hope to survive. Hockenheim, you will hope to survive it in a slightly different way. Just don't want to be T-boned at the hairpin, I guess.
That or fumbling the first corner. Whether it's going to be clipping the curb on the entry or bottoming out the car, riding the outside curbing, and try to keep that on track and be fast about it.
Yeah, there's a couple of different things actually at that track, to be fair, that you don't want to really do. Swindell's Medina, that's that fight for 6th with 4 to go this time by, as we work on lap 33 of 36 to get the season underway in this Precision Racing League Formula 3 series. Officially, 2022 Season 3 will be underway in 3.5 laps time. It's been an exciting start to the seasons as well across the board, not just in the continuing situation, year-long championship situation in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, but of course on Monday nights with the new multi-class proceedings to GT4 with your MX-5 and GR86 Production Car Challenge-esque series. Tuesday, your doubleheader of GT3s. Wednesdays, your Xfinity and Truck NASCAR doubleheader action last week, or rather this week, at the Circuit of the Americas, and of course today, Formula 3 here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Around the outside for Nathan Medina.
What a move.
Swindell doesn't fight it too hard. Medina back up to 6th.
Yeah, I think Swindell was kind of smart over there. You know, he knows that the Medina is kind of faster, so you really don't want to be battling for position to jeopardize what is a really good P7 for Swindell. I think it's one of his best finishes in Formula 3s or even in open dealers from what I've seen him, I think, in the past maybe 2 to 3 seasons that I've been covering up here on PRL. So I think Swindell's is going to be appreciative of this. I was going to say even Takeshi Kita, for example, quiet all throughout the race and is going to wrap up himself in the top 5.
Yeah, and Takeshi Kita, someone that we've previously seen in Formula 4, is making a step up. Swindell, someone that's usually been an AM. Remember, Kita would usually have stepped up to the Formula Series by fighting in the AM class. They're both going to grab top 7 finishes as it plays right now. Swindell's was 5th in the AM Championship last year, so not a bad run. Although, I don't think we're seeing Alexander Rivera or John Quinn, who were in the AM class championship fight last season, out on track here today. Already 7/10 that margin. Coming through the first couple of corners and now ducking down in towards Moss. Hutcherson, 5 seconds clear, a lap and a half left to go. It's been a great drive, up from 4th position to the lead of the race.
And what would be the worst thing? Like, this is the question I actually have to you, Arjuna. Let's just say you are leading with a really comfortable gap in our track like this. You are allowed to actually lift up the gas a little bit more and maybe be more conservative with your drive just because you want to keep the car on track. Do you do that even though it goes at the cost of maybe relaxing mentally, and you might open up yourself a breach to make a mistake because you're being more relaxed towards it, or you just keep the foot on the pedal and see where it leads you?
I feel like that's why you've got to just know your confidence and run with your muscle memory. Don't do anything silly. Don't play any games, especially not for one more lap here at this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Speaking of games, Jake Potts, unfortunately, not enjoying today's game. He's around in 15th position and might even lose a spot to Neil Alexander, who's rapidly rushing his way up towards Moss.
It's right
there.
Yeah, there you go.
So Potts, after putting it off the track at the start of the race through turn 2, back off the track once again, down in 16th spot. Hutcherson will round his way through Moss and then come towards the line. Interesting campaign and schedule, of course, Lorenzo. This Formula 3 machine, not going to be easy to tame across the 10 rounds.
No, and these 10 rounds, like as we said, many tricky tracks for you to navigate with, like Kunstkugen, Jerez. So really looking forward to see these 10 rounds of this F3 season.
Of course, the season finale is going to be a Rutskogan, and that's the round that you cannot drop. Can't afford to be in a difficult spot there. Hutchison, though, fought his way through beautifully to kick off the opening round of this 2023 Season 2 of the Precision Racing League Formula 3 season with a win at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Aussie Milwain put it on pole position, fights his way back to second spot after his brief excursion off the road, while Julio Palacio, consistently up towards the front, will grab himself a spot on the podium. Moran in fourth, Keita will cross the line in fifth to work his way up 18 positions through all the smoke, all the drama, and through all the attrition.
18 positions, you got to be very happy with that. We see other cars on track finishing up, like Nathan Medina, Richard Swindells, Ritters. Jake Potts, I think, managed to try to fight back into P15. Here we go, Arjuna.
He's trying. Don't know if he's necessarily going to have enough time because Potts has got the spot. Alexander will settle for 16th for the time. Difficult opening round, and now with the drivers coming across the line, we'll look ourselves forward to post-race coverage and just waiting for Drew DeWeese to come across the line to get you some unofficial race results. Sun sets here at this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, but it's a victory for Carter Hutchison, who grabs the checkered flag, a full 6 seconds clear of Aussie Milwain, the Atomic Red Panda number 71, flying to start the campaign. Aussie Milwain, second for him, will settle in front of Julio Palacio, while Andrew Moran, as well as Takeshi Kita, grab spots inside of your top 5. Nathan Medina in 6th in front of Richard Swindells, who grabs 13 spots of his own, with Stephen Ritters up 3. Stefan Larkamp in 9th spot. Brad Miller completes the top 10, while Lucas Hill climbs his way up 15 spots to be 11th, but he's not the biggest mover. That goes to Oliver Hartley plus 19 in 12th. Blake Seaty 13th, formerly someone that we've seen racing in some GT3 competition, but good to see him up in 13th with Evan Jones, and then Jake Potts and Neil Alexander behind. Just Vasconcelos, Dowden, DeWeese, Cochran, and then Carter, I think, classified as technically finishing this race at the end, although Malaya Grams, Harris McPherson, Thurman Doe, Scarlett Shabley, Ray, all amongst the graveyard. That includes Dubé, Harrington, Saad, and Negrete, the 34 drivers that we'll see. We'll start our way then into our post-race interviews and line up someone standing by in victory lane. Carter Hutchison blew his way through the field, starting with a superb run through the second half of the opening stint. Carter, talk us through this opening round from your perspective.
Yeah, that was unexpected for sure, especially after that start. I was trying to take it easy and stay out of the carnage, but everyone else, said it was race time. So, luckily staying out of the carnage was part of the game tonight. Probably one of the only reasons I actually came away with the win, because I know both of the other guys had little mishaps there. So, eventful and fun would be the summary.
In terms of the rest of the season, how are you feeling? It's a very different, difficult schedule, so many different types of the tracks. How do you carry this form forward?
Yeah, I think for some of the tracks it's going to be a form of survival. So something like Hockenheim, with the draft being so strong, I think all I'm going to want to do there is to manage myself from not having any issues. But, this season, just want to have a good, fun time with all the Atomic guys. It graciously brought me on board and, even took time to put my little logo on the car. So want to give a big shout out to them. And yeah, hopefully this season we can just get great results for not only ourselves, but the team. And I know two of the gentlemen on the team we lost in some wrecks, but the other two were P5 and P7. So a great start for the team all around.
Well, we'll see how that momentum rolls on forward. Congratulations, Carter. We'll see you in a week's time at the Hockenheim Ring.
Thank you, gents.
Carter Hutchison, victorious to start off the campaign, but second was Aussie Milwain, who's standing by with Lorenzo Bonder.
So, Aussie, P2, I know you put that car on pole, of course. Might have been a little bit of a tricky situation for trying to having the mistakes early on, but have the mentality to bounce back. Talk us through about getting back that P2 spot at the end of the days.
Yeah, it's not really where I wanted to end up, considering I was sitting on pole and I led a lot of laps. But I saw him coming in the Delta, and I don't know. I think that's where my mistake came from. Kind of got in my head. and dipped a tire. Luckily, I saved it. And yeah, I just tried to stay consistent and yeah, stay on track.
Well, still, B2 got to be a good result. And going to a season there, you have so many tricky tracks for you to navigate with, and then the new addition with Jerez. Is there any track that catches your eye that might fit your driving style more than other tracks of the season?
I like Magny course. I'm looking forward to that one. I think it's later on in the schedule.
Yep.
But honestly, I like all tracks. I have favorites, but I like them all.
Right on, Austin. Well, appreciate for coming by, and congratulations on B2, and we'll look to see you next week at Hockenheim.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
And from Aussie Milwayn, we'll make our way over to Julio Palacio. Julio, you start the season off with the podium. How are you feeling after what was a very eventful start to the race?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm feeling really good. I mean, I didn't get much practice this week, and I just picked the pace and stuck with it. I got a good start, and I think that definitely helped me. But, man, I am exhausted. That was a tough race.
Yeah, it's a tough track as well. We saw many drivers finding that the grass was the limit. You say you're sweating. How difficult was it with little practice getting up to speed here?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting a pretty decent set. I've raced here like in the past, and you know what I decided to do is just try to play a little safe and stay away from all the landmines and the banana peels, as I like to call them. And I was able to do it. I had a little bit of luck there, and I got an okay pace. So yeah, it was great. I'll definitely take it.
You definitely avoided all those banana peels, that's for sure. Congratulations on the podium to start things off. We'll see you in a week's time to roll things on to round 2.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Julio Palacio completes our post-race interview coverage. Always great to talk to the drivers on the podium. But again, let's not forget where we go next. We go to the Hockenheim ring. That arena section is known for being tight and twisty, but Lorenzo, we know that it's really the hairpin. That is the choke point to be watching for.
Yeah, it's the dangerous point where all the overtakes is going to be made. A lot of crashes are probably going to be made there as well. And right there you go. You can see that hairpin on screen. Go 3, 4, even 5, depending on circumstances. It's going to be a head-cracking race for them. And, well, they got to practice early on, and can we see when they bring it next week?
That, of course, is going to be round 2 of a 10-round campaign. It all ends at Rutskogen at the end of May. A long road to get there. Join us here live on RaceSpotTV for the journey that these drivers will be on. For now, though, it's time to bid you farewell. Unfortunately, it's not a double header on Thursday night. So Vopubial action for the Precision Racing League. That does not mean it does not have to be fantastically fun and entertaining, although today may be a little bit more on the dramatic side than one would hope. We'll see you in a week's time from the Hockenheim ring, but for now, on behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, for Lorenzo Bonder alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, in this RaceSpotTV commentary booth, thank you so much for joining us. We'll kick the season off with a bang. It's Hutcherson on top, but so much drama to get there.